machine. Hey, what's up with it, y'all? Welcome to my podcast, Cold Narratives. I'm your host, Iceberg Green. About to let y'all hear some of these cold narratives. Check it out. What's up with it, y'all? Iceberg Green. Today is May 7th. And yesterday they had the reparations rally, and I just wanted to set the record straight. I did go off. I went off based on, I guess it's like getting thrown in a ball of fire. You know, I'm new to this media, black media. And when I got there, I felt the vibe. And it wasn't a good vibe. You know, it was people around me. I was over there by most of those CNN, NBC News cameras. And it's like they had it set up. You know, the gentleman, they got, I can't remember his name, but they actually had it set up to where then his wife would go. They messed up the whole order of how people were supposed to speak. And I think they did that on purpose because of the motivation and attraction that it was getting from the speakers. So they kind of like threw a trick bag in there, and we weren't feeling that. I wasn't feeling that on the side. And shout out to Oakland, man. Shout out to East Oakland. You know, I'm a town representative, and you know, we had some real soldiers in there that was on code. You know, and it just, you know, like the energy, man, I felt it, man. They was right there with me on code with me, and they had my back. And you know, I had to take one for the team, man. Town business, and you know, I felt good, you know, getting our point across and taking one for the team. You feel me? And being part of this media, my motivation is not to be disruptive. My motivation is to get the language correct. My motivation is for us to be named foundational Black Americans. My motive is to see a Black hate crime bill. My motive is to stop see all the redlining that are still occurring to this day. My motivation is to just see Black people put on a higher pedestal than what we are right now. That's my motivation. So I'm not here to cause any disruption. I'm here to get the language correct. So let me be clear, though. Reparations definitely needs to include a check. How much? That's why I don't want to really focus on that so much, because then they'll label us, oh, are you looking for a handout? And that's what they love to say. The number definitely starts from anywhere from 300,000 to probably 5 million. Whatever the number is, there is a number. I don't know that number, so I'm not going to keep focusing on that number. We know it's a number, but there's also other stuff that needs to be put in place for us to keep that number correct. Because if we don't put the policies in place, once we do get the reparations, we're going to end up in a trick bag, like I said. So I'm focusing on a lot of other talking points too, but definitely believe that the check need to be ran in. You got to run that check in too. But this is from Al Jazeera, and this is some of their talking points that some of the members that's on the panel that may be suspect, may not. I'm just trying to figure it out. But this they take on it. Check it out.
The AB 3121 task force meeting is now called to order.
The task force was set up by the state legislature in 2020 to develop proposals for compensating California residents who are descendants of enslaved people.
This task force is designed to examine the harms associated with the enslavement of Black people, African Americans in this country, as well as the legacy of the harms of enslavement.
Advocates say reparations would not only be for slavery, but the century and a half of racism that followed.
And we think about over time, whether you want to start with the Jim Crow laws, whether we want to think about moving forward with the redlining with real estate, the horrors of discrimination, segregation, all of those things followed slavery and have continued, I think, to plague us through today.
Economists consulted by the panel estimate that the cost of compensating California's Black residents could top $800 billion. That's 2.5 times the state's budget for this year.
So just to clarify, a lot of these people that's on the panel, specifically Reverend Amos, I don't know why he became part of this when he was way somewhere in Washington. But anyway, him and a few people on the panel, they trying to change the language. So that's really the main thing, man, that I was there and I didn't like. They were trying to change the language and how to address reparations. They're trying to throw trick bags in there. And like I said, this is my first time actually being in one of those media settings with all those cameras and NBC and CNN, all those different networks were sitting there filming. And I could hear the chatter, in the background, because I was actually right there. So they were talking real reckless about Black people, and I wasn't feeling that.
Chair says reparations may not be limited to money.
The recommendation for reparations must include compensation, restitution, which accounts for stolen land or stolen wealth, stolen opportunities, rehabilitation, free education, free health care is examples. I'm not saying those are going to be the final recommendations.
Cash reparations are not unprecedented. The federal government has paid some Native American tribes compensation for land improperly seized from them, and in 1988 paid $1.2 billion to Japanese Americans interned during the Second World War.
The task force would like to hear from everyone.
The task force must complete its report by July 1st. The Commission's ultimate recommendations will be purely advisory. The state's legislature and governor will ultimately decide what, if any, reparations are given, a process that is sure to prompt more debate.
Let me put this in context for you. So they have these different members of this panel, and that are suspect. Now, I've been trying to figure out who's who so I can back them, get behind them, and push their talking points. But there's so many different people that's coming out of the woodworks, and I remember a few people that started this, so I'm kind of confused right now. And no disrespect to any of the speakers, but I just actually could not tell who was who. I've never been in one of those situations where it's so many different ops, so many different organizations, so many different people with agendas. I was just there by myself, man, to take notes. I didn't come with a mob. I didn't come with a bunch of people. I just noticed when I got there were certain people that were talking on code and talking, using the same talking points that I use. And, like I said, man, it became more of a trick bag more than anything. So in order to get around that, I lashed out. I want to thank you all for tuning in. I also want to say God bless those going through the struggle. And make sure you watch out for them cold narratives that the government trying to push on us, y'all. And to all my black people, I will be nothing without y'all. God bless you all.